right, so today's Exactflat for thermal insulation has a theme. Give me one space bar there, Scotty. And it's called Get It Right the First Time. And I think that probably would resonate with a lot of you folks out there that make thermal insulation covers. That theme should resonate quite well. All right, let's go for the agenda. And today we'll quickly cover introductions, who we are, what is Exactflat, some quick information about Exactflat. We'll do a demonstration. Geez, Scott, I'm just wondering if you got the right one up here. We'll see what happens here. And a wrap-up. All right, let's have the next slide. So today we have giving the demonstration will be Scott Ellery. He's an application engineer at Javelin Technologies. And I'm Chris Solmers. There he is. I'm Chris Solmers. I call myself Advanced Technology Advocate, or otherwise known as the sales guy for Javelin Technologies. Go ahead, Scotty. Just a little bit about Javelin Technologies. We're a niche solutions provider for mechanical engineering solutions across North America. We represent product sales, training, and technical support for Exactflat all the way across North America, and you can see our locations in Canada. And we're pleased to be giving you this presentation today. Go ahead, Scott. So what is Exactflat? Exactflat is bundled software based on the SOLIDWORKS design engine. It provides advanced flattening and patterning software and output to the shop floor. And you'll see that it has a multitude of other great functionality as well. Go ahead, Scott. What sets Exactflat apart from other software that currently can be used for textile engineering? Well, Exactflat is really the first product to consolidate the 6 essential steps of product development for textiles. And what that really does is, in the bottom line, it reduces the cost by streamlining the product development workflow. Typically, other packages might ask you to buy 3 or 4 different packages to accommodate design, flattening, patterning, nesting, costing, and documentation. We do this all within the one package that you'll see here today. Go ahead, Scott. Yep. So why Exactflat? The first is speed, and what you'll find with Exactflat is you can create similar designs just by changing dimension. This is from the parametric design engine in SOLIDWORKS. Next is being able to model complex parts, and you'll see that we can flatten any shape accurately the first time. That's really our claim to fame, right? Any shape we can flatten that. Communication, what this means too is we can leverage existing data while using one solution. So you don't have to import or export from different packages. We can do it all inside of one package. And finally, in production, what this means to you is we can easily integrate with the shop floor. So getting those designs from the design all the way to flattening, patterning it, nesting it, all the way to your cutter happens within one package. These are the real advantages to Exactflat. Next slide, please. Exactflat has some really unique qualities. It's a fully integrated SOLIDWORKS Gold Partner product, which means there's only one interface to learn, and it's a very streamlined interface rate within the design package. Exactflat also offers advanced flattening calculations based on FEA, finite element analysis. And what this really means to you is allows designers to optimize their design and really give them insight into what's happening with the materials and how these parts are flattening out. Exactflat also provides an SQL database for material libraries and hardware parts as well.
You heard Chris mention some excellent points on kind of what Exactflat does and some of its capabilities. And one of those first points that he mentioned was being able, the speed of it, to be able to save a lot of time. And through the Exactflat process, we can actually template our parts, change any dimensions that we need to, especially on common parts, and have the rest of the flattening already done for us. So we're going to go through the entire process, but I just wanted to start off with a template part. So this is a part that's actually already being flattened. If I go to my pattern view, I've got my pattern flattened out. I've got all of my seams, my notches, my edge labels, my hems, everything like that already completed. I even have a drawing already done. Okay, and of course I could have done this anyways, but you know, just a bit of a kind of a sewing layout or a drawing for the part. So if I want to take this part and I want to use it, in this case it's a T, but I want to manage some dimensions on it. I could change dimensions. I could say maybe I want to go for a circumference of 35, a length of 15, and a circumference 2 of 32. Right? I can change all of these. I can update my design, right? And all I have to do is just regenerate my pattern. So what this is going to do is Exactflat's going to say, I see that you changed the design. You've already mapped everything to the right pieces anyways. I'm just going to reanalyze that geometry, essentially remesh it, and update your flat pattern. And because SolidWorks, which is what Exactflat works on top of, is a fully parametric modeling program, that's going to update our drawing as well. So essentially, we can plug in a few dimensions, hit a quick rebuild, and the entire process is done for us. We don't have to worry about going through the flattener. We don't have to worry about adding seams. We don't have to worry about any of that because it's already been done for us. So we'll just we'll wait for the patterns to finish regenerating. Right, so you can see in you know, 2 or 3 clicks, that's regenerated. If I go to view my patterns, they've all changed with the sizing change. And if I go to my drawing, you can see as well all of my patterns have changed. You know, we might have to do a little bit of manipulate, maybe kind of drag this piece ID here. So you know, a little bit of manipulation to make it look pretty, but it's saved a huge amount of time by using those templated pieces, right? So that's really the speed of Exactflat. And you know, Chris also touched on complex geometry. You know, one thing we see in industry a lot is the elbows. How the elbows, they're very hard to measure. A lot of times you'll measure, you'll make a pattern, you go back, it doesn't quite fit. You have to kind of tweak it a little bit. So with this kind of complex geometry, Exactflat can handle this no problem at all. So to actually go through the process, we kind of just start from left to right on the toolbar. It's very easy. We just create the pieces that we want. So you know, that might be one piece, that might be one piece, right? And for this particular case, I'll just do the outer layer, but we could do, I mean, you saw in the last example we had 3 layers in there. We can do as many layers as you need to. But in this case, we'll keep it, you know, we'll keep it simple just for demo purposes. So you can see I've got piece 1 and piece 2, and the neat thing about this is we can name this anything that we want. So we can go alphabetically A, B, and C. We can go 1, 2, 3. We can put custom properties in here if you want to label it with any kind of serial number. And these will all show up on your pen layer for your DXF when we actually go to send that to the cutter. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that. You're going to see it's only going to give me the geometry that I'm actually using. So this is where I've told Exactflat I want to use as my pieces. And then moving from left to right, we're just going to go right on and add a material to this. So again, Exactflat's going through, it's analyzing the geometry that I've given it to create the panels with. And here we can just apply a geometry, a material. So if we go under insulation, I've got a few here. We can just put, let's say, high temperature. And I apply it. You can see it gets color coded. So this is really good because you know, we generally don't just have one layer. We've got multiple materials inside of our models that we want to have, and each material can have its own color to make sure that we're mapping it correctly to the right pieces, and it gives you that instant visual feedback. Okay? So now that we've applied our material, we can go right into the flattening process. So we can go into our flattener, and we get our 3D view, and we can just give it a quick remesh there. And from here, we can kind of see some basic stress and strain in our part. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and try and optimize that. And what that's going to do is Exactflat, when I hit optimize, and you can see it happen very quickly, is trying to take all of the energy that we have in our part and out of the part. So it's trying to optimize the part for stretch, strain, and sag using those FEA algorithms and trying to get us the best fitting part the first time. So once we're optimized, I can hit OK. It's going to update our flat pattern for us, and if I go to view the pattern, right, you can see just in the pattern itself, you can see right away that they've accounted for the stretch on the inside of the elbow. And now I've got some move tools that I can use inside of Exactflat to very easily position these parts. I can do a rotate, right, to kind of get that straight. I can also use the Find tool as well. And actually, to find the edges that correspond with each other. Let's rotate this in place here. Right. And of course, at this point in time, I can start adding seams or I can start adding hems. Right. So if I want to add in a seam, and you'll notice I'm in my pattern view here, I can always switch back to my 3D view. Right. I can always switch back to my model view. So let's go ahead and add a seam. So you can see, and actually I've got these flipped around, but as I start adding seams, it automatically grabs the mating seam. So I don't have to worry about which seam lines up with which. And I also don't have to worry about double clicking one seam and then clicking the other one. I can just continuously, you can see I can just select those lines all in a row. It's going to give me one continuous seam. And I've got a few options here. Right, so I've got the seam type. So these are fully customizable. Mine defaults to a half pinched, but you can make any size seam. You can make symmetrical seams, non-symmetrical seams, essentially anything that you want as far as the seam is concerned. We can create notch chains. Mine are creating them by default. You can see I've got these little V notches right here. And we've got a robust amount of options when it comes to notching as well. So I'm using V notches. We can also do T notches, square notches, slits, any size, totally customizable to kind of fit your company standards right now. And that, again, that'll be, you can either have that show up on a cut layer on your cutter, or you can have that show up on a pen layer. And we can also do edge labels as well, just so that we know which edges go with which. So you can see right here, this is panel 1, and it goes to panel 2. And if I look over here, this is panel 2, and it goes to panel 1. So when I actually go to seam these together and to sew them, I'll know which panels go with which. Okay, so a lot of intelligence built into Exactflat, as well as I can hem as well. It's the same idea, right? It's just, again, for edges with no mate, right? And I have the exact same options, right? So very easy. It's just click and go. Okay. And once I've set up my my flat pattern, this is where I can go out and I can send this to my cutter. Okay. And I can go into my marker view. Okay, so this is our marker, right? This is what we would send out to our cutter, and you get some good in here. So you get kind of a visual of how your parts are being located on the marker, and actually I can. So you can see, if I zoom way out, that's my marker there. Those are my two parts there. I can also zoom into just those two parts. And I get some good information at the top here as well in my marker sets. right? So I've got my cost for my material, and if I move this, you can see that that cost is dynamically updating. So I know exactly how much marker material I'm using if I send this out to the cutter. So this is fine. I could go in and I could manually organize this, or I could try and manually nest this, but you know, as it is in the insulation industry, generally, you know, you're not doing just this. Generally, you're doing an entire project all at once, which can be upward of thousands of pieces, right? So Exactflat also has nesting capabilities in its professional version that can really, really help you out. So right now, you know, we've got one set, but you know, let's say just for argument's sakes, we wanted 20 copies, right? Pop back in here and we'll just throw our 20 copies in there, right? So the way that Exactflat throws them in, they're all kind of in a row, right? So if I click on this little nest button right here, whoops, I can kind of see how my marker looks now, right? And I know that it's not nested. And I can set my nest time. So my runtime right now is set at 1 minute. For more complex nesting, you might want to set a little bit higher. Generally, I start at 1 minute, and I see how the nest goes. If it doesn't quite complete, then you know you up the time. But just for this sake, we'll leave it at 1 minute, and we'll just hit nest. Okay, and you're going to see it change in real time. So it's running some very sophisticated algorithms to make sure that we utilize our material the best way that we possibly can. This can take into, or this can respect many material properties as far as the distance apart of the material for cutting. This can respect lay rules if you want your part to lay a certain way. It can intelligently nest all of your parts and fairly quickly. I've had this running for 30 seconds, and we're already about 3/4 of the way there. Right? And you can just see the marker cost difference. So we went from 602.29 to we're at about 116.17. Right? So we're nearly done there. A few more seconds. There we go. So now you can see our status. We're nested. Right? So we can accept that nest. We say that looks good. And then when we close it, you can see that it's updated our marker. Okay. So what we can do with that is we can export that. So we can export that out. And we have a number of different profiles that we can export out for different cutters. And this is completely customizable depending on the cutter that you're using. For this example, with an export to Eastman, you can see I've got different pen layers, I've got different cut layers, and essentially what this is going to do is when I hit export, it's going to take that marker view, export it out as a DXF, and then you're just going to read it directly into your cutter. So it's a very simple process, and then from there your cutter is going to take it away. Okay, so that's kind of the whole process, especially for using that complex geometry. But we can also really leverage the advantages of SolidWorks with Exactflat as well. So if we have certain geometry that we want to model around, in this case, let's say that we have a valve, right? We can use that existing geometry that we have. Maybe we get the valve from a customer that can send us their model, and we can utilize all of this data inside of SolidWorks to quickly create insulation and insulation covers around it, right? So a great way to do this is using some of the powerful surfacing features in SolidWorks. The first one, and probably the most popular, is the offset. This is going to make short work of creating your insulation layers. You can see we just select faces, and we can offset them, let's say, 1 inch. Right? So it's going to take those faces and essentially make a 1-inch shell around them. So this is a good technique. We can also, let's say we want to create just a cylinder through here. So we can offset off these surfaces, let's say 1 inch. Right, there's some quick surfacing tools like a loft to quickly connect these. Whoops. Right, which kind of gives us our bottom portion of our insulation. Right. So we've been working on this for all of 10 seconds. We've got about half of it done already. Right. We can also use the geometry. We can sketch directly on the geometry if we want to. Right. Quickly create outline geometry. Right. We can have our geometry intersect. Maybe stand it off a little bit and cap the end. Right. And we can do the same thing with cutouts. If we want to do a little cutout here for this knob here, we can utilize some of the geometry and just trim. Oops. Use that sketch we just created. And trim away the inside. Right? And then once we've got the general shape, very easy for us just to go through. We can hide all of the bodies we don't want to see. Right? And we're left with just the insulation that we can work with. Right? So we can go ahead and we can trim away the inside here. And now we've got our first layer. Right? And we can quickly create additional layers as well. So again, we can use that offset surface. We can just say, take all the layers I have, create another layer at 1 inch. Right? Create additional layers. For this particular example, again, I'm just going to use the 1 layer. But you can see, very quick, very easy to create additional layers. Right? So I'll do a quick split line here, which is just going to help split this into panels. Right? So now I can see that's going to be 1 panel, that's going to be 1 panel. And I can start, again, creating my pieces. Right? So I can say that's 1 piece. And I'm not holding down control or anything, I'm just selecting with the mouse. I'm just selecting these 3 faces, and I'm hitting enter. Right? So that's 1 panel, that's 1 panel, that's 1 panel, that's 1 panel, and let's make that 1 panel. Right? Again, we can apply our material. Okay. So again, analyzing that geometry. So, the big takeaway here is that using that existing geometry, we were able to accurately and quickly create that cover. Right. Let's make it sure. Okay, you can see we've got a different color there. And now we can flatten it out.
Scott, are you going to show how to add hardware somewhere along here?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, sir.
So we can go to our flat pattern, and we're flattened out there. So now again, we can use those move tools. Oh, actually, that's a little bit far away. You can see the kind of the find tool in action here, and it kind of automatically aligns all of our parts. It knows which edges connect with which edges. So again, I can go through. I can add my seams. I can add my hems. But something that we haven't touched on yet, which Chris mentioned, was adding in hardware. Right. So things like hog rings or Velcro. So again, another way of mapping hardware, we can just sketch directly on our flat patterns. So we can just mark with points where we want certain hardware to go. Right. Of course, we can fully define these and specify where these are going to go with dimensions. And then it's the same process. So we just go hardware, select the sketch with the points that we want, what piece it's going to map to, and then we select our hardware. And I don't think I have hog rigs in here, but let's say it was going to be, I don't know, a grommet. All right. So those get mapped and projected onto the part, and then we get a full count as well. So you can see it knows that there's 5. So if you add this to a big, a fairly large project, sometimes it can be very hard to keep track of your hardware. This is going to do it for you. Okay. And so we've gone through the process. We've gone through starting with templated parts. We've gone through some complex flattening, being able to sketch around SolidWorks geometry and customer geometry, adding some hardware in. And I just want to go over, actually I have a video for it, and this is Exactflat standalone. So this allows us to combine marker projects. So you may have a few different markers from a few different projects that you might want to cut all at once, or you might have broken your project down into steps that you want to bring together as one big marker on the cutter. Exactflat standalone allows you to do that. It allows you to import in those multiple markers, and you can see from the video that they come in grouped, right? So we can see it's kind of a regular marker view like you would normally have, right? And in fact, right now we've clicked on a marker that's all one group. So you can see we put in a grouping and how it kind of color codes that. If we go grouping here, you can see it color codes by the different markers that we've uploaded into the standalone. But you can notice that it's not nested or anything like that. So this is where, again, that nesting capabilities of Exactflat Professional really shine. So we can take that entire marker, which is pretty huge, and we can nest that right down and make sure that we optimize our material usage. And I mean, this can save quite a bit of material when you're thinking about hundreds or thousands of parts. Right. So you can see, you can see the savings there, and they only nested it for a few seconds. So you can imagine, if they went through the entire nesting process, the material savings. Right, and then it updates, and we can see that everything's been nested on our marker.